Hello, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. We're obviously having a show where we're not as accustomed to or as happy as we normally are. But
Sean, is that you?
Maurice, you okay?
Can I look now?
Maurice, it's okay.
Are you sure?
It's okay.
Oh, okay.
You can remove the blindfold.
I thought for a second there it was still on. Good thing. My bad. How's it going?
Really good. Glad to have you on the show, Maurice.
Good to be here.
Got my good buddy Maurice Booth back with us. As most of you probably know, we did not fare well in the national championship game, so we're going to break that down a little bit. And if you didn't catch it, Maurice was doing a little pun with the new
Bird Box,
the new movie that's been out recently, Bird Box.
I saw a couple of former teammates and fraternity brothers post something like that during the game. It's like, this is how I started watching the second half. And
yeah,
it's like it was so bad that you had to eventually laugh at it.
Well, let's jump right in, Maurice. We were talking before the show, me and some of the guys, and the game starts out and okay, Tua throws a pick, which I thought was totally a fluke.
Now let's stop right there. And I've done. I don't like to. Sometimes I overanalyze things, and sometimes I try to skate by them. The first one, in that one, my opinion, and this is where to Tua, and I think he's already to that point where he's humbled. Not that, and I'm not saying he was cocky. He's a very nice young man, but to his skill set, you got lackadaisical. It started showing. Really against Georgia, holding on to the ball too long, trying to make plays. And then in that game, it was great film research by the Clemson. That defensive coordinator earned his $2 million.
Did a great job.
But Venables, but the corner did a great job. I know you probably went back and watched it, where he broke off the sideline route, which is one of the worst passes in my opinion, and he broke off and waited for the curl. He felt the curl coming, which that comes from watching tendencies and so forth, and it was an easy pick. So it was either a pass that was behind the receiver, or he didn't anticipate, which I'm pretty sure, based on what Herb Street said, that he didn't anticipate the corner stopping and picking up the right. It was perfect positioning. So that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, that right there was one of the first clues as far as their approach to the game, being a little less focused.
And I hate to sound like it. I made the comment it was a fluke. I hate to say it was a fluke. Great job by the DB. Great job preparing by the defensive coordinator.
Yes.
However, my point was I just didn't feel like, oh my God.
Right. I didn't either.
Here we go, because we come right back and we score fairly quickly.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, and I said this is going to be one of those games where whoever has the ball last is going to win.
Right. And I don't think you or I or anybody else thought that. I don't know what the over-under was, but I think it was reached in the first quarter.
Oh, yeah.
And I texted you not to, and I'll be honest, I told y'all last week 37-35, whoever had it. So I texted Sean the other day. I said, I want to go back on it. I think we beat them 37-17. And so I had a couple of former high school teammates text me saying, I think you got it reversed. And, yeah, you're right. To the fact that they were scoring at will early.
Yeah.
Which shocked everybody. And even then you're thinking this is a fluke. It will stop, it will adjust.
We'll make an adjustment.
Right.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Listen, let me ask you first. When did you say we're done?
I didn't say I got a text from Governor Blackshear. Is it Governor? I always get that mixed up. Alderman, we'll call it that. And he had sent me something towards the end of the second quarter, coming close to the first, he said, "We're done." And I didn't respond. I was like, "Do not," I wanted to go, "Do not text me with this junk."
Right.
I didn't feel like it was then. In the third quarter, when we couldn't get off the field and they kept making third downs, I was like, even if we kept scoring, we can't stop them.
Right.
Reminded you of 15 or the 2016 game for the 15 season. That's when we did the onside kick. At least we were scoring.
We had to change something up.
We were scoring.
Yeah.
But this we weren't scoring. I said, it doesn't matter. We can't stop this kid.
Mm-hmm.
He is on point. So,
a lot of folks were texting me during the game. We had some folks over when they were talking about it, and I really didn't, even when the end of the first half and we just took it into the half.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, we're down 15. We get the ball to start the game. We need a drive. It would have been nice to have scored some points before the half, but we get the ball back. So, I still felt okay. I agree. We were having an issue stopping them, but I just knew that we were going to make some adjustments because we were putting them in some third and long situations, and I felt like that's what we need to do.
Right.
Now we just need to get off the field on third down. I mean, we were putting them in several. I think they ended up 10 of 15.
Yeah.
Which is really good for them, bad for us. But my point is, we put them in some third and long situations, which is what we were supposed to do.
But the thing is, and this comes back to, one of the problems we've had that. We as Alabama fans have a problem in, I don't want to say drinking the Kool-Aid, but we don't want to recognize where the problems are, even throughout the season. One of them was we haven't had a Tim Williams.
That's right.
Rashawn
Evans. You didn't have that showstopper on defense, minus Quentin Williams, but it's different from an interior guy.
I can avoid him.
That's exactly right.
He can whip 2 or 3, but as a talented quarterback, you can avoid that.
That's right. That's right.
But now, if you got Rashawn Evans, Tim Williams coming off the corner that can fly.
And a guy coming up the middle.
Right. It changes everything. So we didn't have that. And that's, kudos to their offensive. They had 2 offensive coordinators that realized that Trevor Lawrence would have enough time to make his adjustments and get the ball out. Great. I mean, I am not taking anything away from Clemson or that kid, and everybody's been talking about Justin Ross, who had a great game and so forth. Congratulations.
Phenomenal job by Phoenix City guy. So, I was happy for that. Unfortunate for Alabama.
Yeah, but, we also had, Markel.
That's right. Markel Benton.
Yeah, so how about some love for him?
That's right.
So I thought as far as third down goes, that was a problem, and we could never get to him.
Yeah.
That's what was killing me. In the fact that, and we've talked about it before, we've had it years past where we could send 4 and get to him. We couldn't get to him. The kid is 6'6", so he's going to see over everything. But we couldn't fluster him at all. That's what bothered me.
Well, there's obviously a lot to talk about. You made a comment, Alabama fans drinking the Kool-Aid, and I was saying earlier, we're just not used to being in this situation. That's a good thing.
Right.
That's a good thing. But when we come back from the break, we're gonna talk about a lot more. Like I said, a lot to talk about. A little bit different mood, little bit different attitude. But we're going to take a short break, Tide fans, on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. But hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Savings this big come with their own theme music. State Farm agent Bob English in Phoenix City can help you get all the discounts you deserve with a free discount double check. After all, real savings should fold, not jingle. Get to a better state. Call Bob today.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans.
Is this new?
That is new.
Yeah.
I brought that just for this. I figured we'd light a candle in mourning or what have you.
Yeah, yeah, that's about right.
So we were talking, Maurice, in that last segment just about getting off the field on third downs and when did you think the game was over? And I think a lot of people were, everyone admitted, even commentators were saying they knew Clemson could win the football game. They just didn't think it would be like that.
Right.
When's the last time you've seen Alabama just get dominated? And I'm going to tell you, kudos to them both offensively and defensively. You made the comment, we're used to getting people, getting to the quarterback with, rushing four. But even when we did get to them, they were prepared.
Yeah.
Dump it off, or they make a really good play. And man, so kudos to them, because at the end of the day, we did some things really well. They just had an answer for it.
Well, and I'm going to be honest, and I don't want to hold back, and I don't care who gets upset because it doesn't affect my pay. Because y'all are paying me the same, right?
That's right. Paying you the same.
Good. I go back, and I said this last year, and it's even more evident this year. I had a friend of mine that I work with, Georgia fan. He and I were talking before we left work Monday. Asked me my prediction, I told him. He said, I think you got it wrong. It's the exact opposite. They run you off the field. I said, yeah, I know. You hate, and he said, has nothing to do with it. He said, I'm seeing it differently than you. It's not going to be close. And his name is Jason Brown. He predicted this. And he said, your attitude in the Oklahoma game cannot be corrected in a week. You probably still have the same attitude. This team is hungry. This team is talented. They're going to be coming after you. So now I go back to a couple things. Mel Tucker leaving. And I know he's been gone for 3 years. Our DBs have not been the same since. I looked up one of the stats. We were 55th, tied for 55th in the country in turnovers. A few years ago, we were scoring a defensive touchdown every game.
Yeah.
So that should tell you one thing. The other thing is the defense overall. Nothing against really our defense coordinator. I have a strong suspicion he's going to probably be reassigned. I didn't think the defense as a whole was as good as it's been, even going back to 2007, because you had Rolanda McClain as a freshman running the defense, and it was getting there. And then you had Kareem Jackson, Rashad Johnson in the back. So it was pretty good. I saw Patrick Surtain get abused by Oklahoma. I saw, and Ross studied out, we've mentioned that. I saw our DBs in this past game confused. Now, I never did hear the injury.
I hadn't heard anything. I'm going to tell you, just to be honest with you, I don't know. So, because you haven't heard, I haven't heard. I'm going to tell you, man, I hope he's not hurt, because I thought it was just his pride.
That's what somebody else said, but the way they were testing it looked like ACL.
ACL.
So,
and I don't wish that on anybody, especially one of our guys, but I initially thought, and that's his pride.
Right. And that's what somebody else had mentioned that I was watching the game with. It was just, I thought it had finally caught up to us. We're Alabama. We're going to come out there and you should be intimidated. Well, not everybody's intimidated by the bully on the block. So I think, and I know a lot of people, it's easy to say hindsight. I just didn't think, I thought Tosh, his promotion to DC was a reward for being a great recruiter. I think we now see where that doesn't necessarily qualify you to be that. And I don't mean this disrespectful, but he's not the same class as Jeremy Pruitt.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, listen, you made a good point. When's the last time we had a turnover on the defensive side? Period. I think I read a stat an article that said we hadn't had one since October.
Really? That could be right.
I want to say it was October, maybe early November.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of things that come into play there. You know, just talk about the aggressiveness of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you mentioned, you know, makes a big difference when you got the guys coming off the edge, like you mentioned, Rashad Evans and,
right.
and you know, Tim and those guys, you know, especially when you have some push up the middle. We didn't have that. We have some guys injured, potentially will be back. But you're right. You know, when do we take the risks like what you saw those guys taking risk? I mean, you know, the DB on the first possession, he took a chance.
Right.
But
those are calculated risks. Those are risks that have been evaluated by his position coach and his coordinator. So I'm sure they told him, watch, you know, 80% of the time he's going to throw it inside. He's not going to go outside. So just hang tight. Just basically what he did was called cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Don't commit. Just wait.
Yeah.
You can make up ground, and he's not going to break one as long as you don't leave your feet. So that's where he stayed right there. Now, as far as that's what I'm talking about. I don't think that level, and I don't want to be one of these trashers at the end of the season. I just don't think that level of coaching was there this year.
And here's the thing, Maurice. Let's make sure we put this disclaimer out there.
Defensively.
Yeah, I mean, let's put this disclaimer out there. Man, we went 14-1. Made it to the national championship game again.
Right.
You know, 4 years back to back playing for the national championship. So, without a doubt, certainly I'm not judging, criticizing, ridiculing, so to speak. But we are talking about things that potentially that we feel like could have went wrong, or we saw, or what have you. And I don't want to sound like that spoiled Alabama fan.
Right. But see, that's just, I don't think it is, and I hope you all don't take it as that. But I think it's used to, you know, we're called a commitment to excellence. We're used to that, and that's what we strive.
That's where I was going to go.
I used to tell a friend of mine, he's a Georgia fan. I love him though. I'll look past it. He's like a brother. But I told him one time, he was getting on me. I said, hey, when Georgia takes the field, you hope that y'all win, right? He goes, yeah. I said, well, we expect to win. There's the difference.
That's right.
And so, you know, I don't look at it as spoiled and some stupid Facebook post about, I guess y'all are going to fire Saban or some garbage like that. Right, we're going to fire the greatest of all time. But I tell you one thing, this is one of our saving graces, and a former teammate of mine, Kevin Welniak, down in Tampa, he posted a quote from Coach Bryant is, as far as if you learn to lose with humility, you'll be back.
Yeah.
And I feel certain that Coach Saban is doing evaluations on everything, including himself, and is probably, I'll say not irritated, but chomping at the bit to get to spring, get to summer camp, because I think he's going to plan it out as far as things that have to happen.
Yeah.
So if you want to bet against them, go ahead.
Well, that's going to be a great lead-in to the next segment and talking about where do we go from here and that sort of thing. So we're going to take a short break. On behalf of Bob English and State Farm, we'll be right back, Tide fans, so hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
State Farm agent Bob English is here to help protect all the moving parts of your life with auto, home, life, and financial services. Bob English and his team make it simple to bring together what matters to you. Get to a better state. Call Bob today.
In 3, 2.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. So, Maurice, just to echo what you said, I mean, yeah, we've talked about, and it's one of the mantras is commitment to excellence. It's expect excellence. And so kind of where I was going with that in that last segment was, that's what's expected. That's what we as fans expect. When we don't see that, it's natural to just try and figure out what
went wrong.
What went wrong? What were we thinking? I mean, listen, make no mistake. We're down, 18 to 21 points, and I felt like
it's still doable.
We're running the football down their throat. There's this defensive line, and they're a really good football team. So I'm not, saying that they're not, but we ran the football down their throat with 3 backs that was averaging over 5 yards a carry. So I'm still thinking, look, we need to finish the drive and score and maybe stop them and see if we get a chance, because I felt like they couldn't stop us running the football. So yes, where did it go wrong? Kind of what happened. But I think you were leading into where I wanted to talk about this third segment. This is, make no mistake, all that did was really make Nick Saban want to work even harder, and the guys that are returning. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if you watched the clip where Tua's leaving the stadium. They showed a clip with him talking to Damian Harris on the sideline, and he was leaving the stadium.
Right.
And he's looking around, and in my mind, he's saying, I want a mental image of this because I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he literally stopped before he goes in the tunnel, and he turns around, camera's really close to him, and he's looking at everything. He paused, turns around, and I think and I'd love to talk to him to find out, but I think he's saying, I want to know what this looks like and feels like, because I'm going to do everything I can for it not to happen again.
Exactly, and it's I'm not going to be feeling like this, and he was, like you said, consoling Damian Harris, who I felt for because he didn't get his 1,000 yards and didn't go out on top. Players like that go, I'm going to remember, this is going to drive me in January, February, and March during my workouts, and then in spring practice, and then when I get into my summer workouts running, I'm going to remember this feeling. I don't want to forget it. I'm going to let it burn inside me to the point of anger.
Well, it's what, and listen, we were talking about this before. When you're the number one team just about every year, when you're preseason ranked number one, when you end up being number one, I think there was a time there where, 40-something weeks straight, we were number one.
Right.
Or, that becomes, you don't lose. So you don't know what that feels like. And sometimes it's good to get hit in the mouth. And they hit us in the mouth hard.
Repeatedly.
And it's good because you can learn some valuable lessons. And I think Nick Saban preaches that. He even has said, if we don't take this loss and use it, then it was for nothing.
Well, just like I remember being in Tampa at that game. We lost last second on a pick play. Oh, I'm sorry, rub. I kept getting those mixed up.
That's right.
But we lost that game. I never will forget. I was on spring break with my daughter, and of course she was out doing what I was having to stay in and work. I had something going on, and a thing flashed up on my phone. Nick Saban press conference after the first practice of spring. You would have sworn that he had just stepped up to the podium after that game in Tampa as angry as he was.
That's right.
So don't be surprised if when spring practice starts in March, after the first press, that he comes out a little snippy, a little short. No pun intended, Auburn fans. But he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And he wants the rest of the team to have it. And there's going to be some challenges taking place. It's going to be a spirited spring practice.
I think so too. I mean, just hearing just a little bit of the conversation that the returning players, the comments they made, Deontay Thompson still sitting in his locker the night, after the game, and kind of in disbelief, but also saying that he can't believe that he's talking about they executed as poorly as they did.
Right.
And kudos to Clemson, but should we have done our job, this game's totally different. And so, I think those guys will have that same mindset. I mean, and as good as Nick Saban is in the mental aspect, the mind part of the game, he's going to be feeding that.
Oh, yeah. You can best believe it.
I mean,
and that's going to be communicated to Scott Cochran. And I want you to challenge these guys we had a guy named Al Miller who still gives me nightmares sometimes as our strength and conditioning coach. He was just as intense as Cochran. And the one of the things is the strength coach can have access 24/7 to all the players and coaching and talking to them. And so they have one of the biggest impacts on the team. So I can only imagine what's going to be in their ear. He will remind them constantly of what the national championship was and how it felt. And he will say it in their ear to get them irritated every day, and it'll drive them. So
I made a comment, Maurice, that there's already locker room material out there, and nothing that people are intending to do. It's just, the facts. The
dynasty's over.
Things that, have you ever seen Alabama dominated? Those things will be in the locker room if they're not in there already.
Right.
I'd be surprised if there's not locker room material already up and provided by just people that are making their own assessment. Sports writers and commentators talking about the fact that, Alabama, never really appeared to have any control in the game,
right?
Except for the first few minutes. And so those things will be in the locker room. You can bank on it. And the thing that I also like is some of the recruits, some of the guys that have already committed that early signing period.
Right.
They're already buying into it. They're already saying, I'm ready for what's about to come because we know it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. So, and I don't think there's any way that they can prepare for it, especially the incoming ones, even the ones that are on the team now, because then I started thinking it's kind of cyclical. Every two years, you see a lull. We got beat by Clemson a few years ago. It reignites it because those players didn't have to starve, didn't have to fight like the other ones had to rebound and come back. So it's going to, like I said, if you're lucky enough to have access to one of the closed practices, I'd go.
Yeah, there's something to say about losing. I mean, nobody likes to lose, especially on that stage,
right?
In that environment, nobody likes to lose. It's got to happen at some point. For us, we're generally always, not generally, we have been. We've been in the last 4 national championship games. Mm-hmm. So it just happened to be the national championship game for us. But without a doubt, there's something to say about a loss. It can motivate you, or you can, hide under a rock. And
there's going to be some motivation.
Without a doubt, I think there's going to be some motivation. Well, Maurice, man, it's been a great season, 14-1. SEC championship, Orange Bowl champions, can't complain. Sure would have liked to have won, but you know what? I'll be interested to see how we respond to the one loss for 2018, 2019.
Don't bet against us.
Well, I appreciate you joining me again on the show, sir, and bringing the bird box pun to the show. That was pretty interesting.
Can I take this home?
You can take that
Thank
home.
you.
I ordered that just for you.
Sweet.
So until next year, folks, we appreciate you joining us on Tide Talk this year. Thank you for coming each week and watching the show. More than likely, we will be back here again. But stay tuned for some announcements of what might happen here on Tide Talk. Watch us for Channel 7 and 207, and we'll see you again next year. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.